Thank you all so much for showing up this morning, and I pray that if you're here, you may be needing something. I hope you find it this morning. Please know you are loved here, you are safe here, you are never alone. Um, if you would stand as you're able, we're going to begin with some music. Well, I feel a warm wind blowing, melting all the sadness off of my soul, and I smell the sweet cherry blossom, pouring all her gladness into my soul. In winter, I believe. In springtime, I see you. It's so good to be with you. My hope has come. Lord, you make all things new. Your love is my breakthrough. Now I sing hallelujah. My hope has come. Now I walk through the valley of the shadows, and I have been tested by silver and gold, and your faith has taught me to cherish that this life affliction is not my home. In winter, I believe you. In springtime, I see you. It's so good to be with you. My hope has come. Lord, you make all things new. Your love is my breakthrough. Now I sing hallelujah. My hope has come. In winter, I believe you. In springtime, I see you. It's so good to be with you. My hope has come. Lord, you make all things new. Your love is my breakthrough. Now I sing hallelujah. My hope has come. Now I sing. Now I sing hallelujah. My hope has come. Now I sing hallelujah. My hope has come. Heavenly Creator, always amaze me. Let your kingdom come in my world, in my life. Give me the fruit I need to live through the day. And forgive me as I forgive people around me. Lead me far from temptation. Deliver me from the evil one. Look out the window, birds are composing. The book is out of tune or out of place. To the meadow, stare at the flowers. Maybe just than anyone on a wedding day. yourself to be the one you found. Two things you told me, that you are strong and you love me. Yes, you love me. Your love is, your love is, your love is strong. Your love is, your love is, your love is strong. Your love is, your love is, your love is strong. Your love is, your love is, your love is strong. Lord God in heaven, hallowed be thy name above all names. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Sustain us with your word. Keep us far from our vices and from this present. The empty field, the wounded heal, broken rise together. Pour our bless, the weary rest. We will dance forever. The blinded see, the chained are free. The doubtful now believer. The outcast known, the orphan known. You are our Redeemer. Behold, behold, behold what love can do. Behold, behold, we're making all things new. The lost return, the voiceless heard, the morning hour rejoicing. The mountains shake, the world awake, creation all composing. The silent truth, the earth renewed, the song has found its singer. The darkness light, the dead alive, you are our Redeemer. Behold, behold, behold what love can do. Behold, behold, we're making
Good morning. A magic act has three parts. If you've seen Christopher Nolan's movie, you know this. There's the pledge, the turn, and the prestige. I hope this lives up to your excitement. Just a Christopher Nolan? Oh, the movie. Okay, yeah. This movie is good. The magician presents an ordinary object and usually makes it disappear or change in some way, and then seemingly brings it back transformed. The philosopher Peter Rollins has called the Eucharist a magic act, one that reveals a deeper truth about reality, community, and the human condition. So let's pull back the curtain on the magic that we're about to participate in. We start with the pledge. With a magic trick, the pledge is when the magician first presents something ordinary, like a coin, or a card, or a dove, a bird, a rabbit, or in this case, bread and wine, / juice. The objects are nothing but what they appear to be, common elements of daily life. This pledge reflects how we often engage with life on the surface. The bread is just bread, the wine is just wine, the world is just as it appears to be. But as with all great illusions, what we see is not all there is. So then we move to the turn. This is when the ordinary object is made to vanish or change. In the Eucharist, this moment occurs when the bread and wine are declared to be the body and blood of Christ. What was once mere food is now infused with a profound significance. It becomes something beyond itself, an embodiment of divine presence and sacrifice. In the magic act, this is where the audience gasps. Thank you. In communion, too, it's often an unsettling moment. Are we actually claiming that this bread is somehow someone's body? That this wine is now blood? This is where faith enters. Not as mere belief in the supernatural, but as the capacity to see through and beyond the material world, to recognize a deeper reality pulsing beneath appearances. At its core, the turn reflects how life itself undergoes transformations that defy our expectations. Love, suffering, loss, and hope all perform similar turns in our life. What seems ordinary or even painful often carries hidden depths of meaning that only later become clear. And then finally, the prestige. The climax of the magic act, where the vanished object returns, but in a way that defies logic. In communion, the bread and wine now carry a presence beyond themselves. They are no longer just bread and wine, they are communion, the coming together of a people, the embodiment of grace, the lived reality of transformation. In this way, communion reveals a paradox at the heart of life, that things are both what they seem, how they appear, and more than what they seem. And we too are transformed in this act, not by consuming the body and blood in a literal sense, but by participating in a ritual that enacts the mystery of presence, absence, and return. It teaches us that the world is not simply what it appears to be, that transformation is always possible, and that even the most ordinary elements of life, like bread and wine, human relationships, and even ourselves, carry the potential for the sacred. Let's read the liturgy. God is within you.
God is also within you.
Lift up our hearts, lift up your hearts.
We join in the beloved community.
Let us give thanks for the blessing of life. Together we raise our voices in gratitude. May we learn to see past the surface appearance of things, or rather take things for what they are, but also be able to be a people, a community that can see the depth, the mystery, the community in all things in life. Great is the mystery of faith.
Christ is reunited to death. We join in bringing heaven to earth.
Let's participate in this magic act together. Front rows will go first, up the center aisle. Everybody is welcome in this Eucharist.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a child like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was bound, but now I'm free. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to love, and grace my love received. How precious is the grace of the hour I first begun. You, my love, are good to me. Your word, my hope, secure. You will, my guide, and portion me as long as life endures. Through many dangers, toils, and sins, we have already won. 'Twas grace that brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead me on. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a child like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was bound, but now I'm free. All right, kiddos.
Good morning. All the kids are invited down to the front here. What a great bunch we have. How are y'all today? You doing good? Awesome. Well, I brought a friend with me again. This is Beauregard. Do you know what kind of animal he is? That's right, he's a moose. Now, he's a small moose. He is from Alaska. That's where moose live. And he came all the way from Alaska to be here. Now, he's smaller than most moose are. Moose are like taller than your car. Can you believe that? We have deer here and they're kind of small. So not everything in Texas is bigger. But moose are just gigantic. So yeah, Beauregard's really on the tiny side for mooses, but that's okay. He's big in heart. And did you know that moose have feelings? That they feel things? Is that right, Beauregard? He says yes. Now, you won't hear Beauregard actually speak because he doesn't speak English and he's very shy and reserved. So he will whisper his answer to me in Moose,
I wish I could
and
speak
then I will
Moose.
interpret to you in English, okay? All right, so Beauregard, what kind of feelings do you have sometimes? Mhm. Oh, really? Okay, I'll tell him. So Beauregard says that he sometimes is very happy. What makes you happy, Beauregard? Oh, yeah, okay, that's good. Things that make him happy is like in the springtime, when the willow trees start putting out leaves, and he has leaves to eat, grass turns green again, and he can just find a lot more food in the spring and summer. And now, Beauregard, do you ever feel other feelings like sadness or anger or anything? Mm-hmm. Oh, you want me to tell them that story? Okay, I'll tell them. So Beauregard wants me to tell you a story of something that happened in Alaska a while back. So one day, there was a group of people, and they were visiting Alaska, and they had a guide, someone helping take them to see Denali, which I refuse. You may hear some people call it Mount McKinley, but that's wrong. The indigenous people there named it Denali, so that's what I call it. So they were going to visit Denali, and they're walking along this path, and all of a sudden they heard all this noise over here to the side in the trees, and they stopped. The poor guy said, "Be real still and quiet." So they watched, and you know what happened? Pretty soon, out comes running across the path in front of them a baby moose. Not as tiny as Beauregard, even their babies are pretty big. But it was a baby moose, and it was running. And he was so scared. Is that a feeling? Fear? Yeah, sometimes we get afraid too, don't we? So the baby moose ran across the path into some woods on the other side. Pretty soon after it, comes a big old bear. The bear was running right behind the baby moose, trying to catch it. And that's why the baby moose was sitting in front. So they go off over here running, and we'll sing. Guess what happened? They heard more noise over here. Dun, 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 dun. Guess what it was? It was Mama Moose. Somebody over here had it right. Mama Moose was running as fast as she can, following the bear and the baby moose. And they got over here, and she disappeared. And over here, the people started hearing this racket. There was a bear roaring, and there was a Mama Moose going, woo, woo. And all this thrashing and noise. Oops. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He says he's fine. So, all this noise over here, and they're wondering, the people are going, what's happening? Pretty soon, they heard noise from this side now. Dun, 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 dun. It was the bear running. And then they heard more noise. Dun, 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 dun. It was the Mama Moose. She was now chasing the bear because he had messed with her baby. Now the baby moose stayed over here waiting on Mama. She probably said, "You wait here, I got this." And she went and took care of business with the bear. And her baby was okay. But you know what? What do you think the Mama Moose was feeling? Yes, she was sad and she was scared. Do you think she was maybe angry? Yeah, she was mad because somebody was messing with her baby. Okay? So you know what? I think a lesson that we can learn from this is that if God made the animals able to feel feelings and feel scared and happy and sad, do you think it's okay that we have those feelings? It is. So I have a feeling today in your class, you're going to hear a little bit more about feelings and someone else who had feelings one time. And you're going to talk more about it, okay? Now, does anybody here have something they would like to ask Beauregard? Any question for, yes? How old are you, Beauregard? He said he's 2 years old. How about that? Anybody else have a question for Beauregard? No more questions? Okay, I'm sure Beauregard will come back to visit us again one day. He says he will, okay? Oh, no, Beauregard, don't listen. You have to hear. She said you're just a stuffed animal. Oh. It's okay, Beauregard.
No, Beauregard has sad feelings.
Yes, Beauregard is smart child. Okay, so that's all for your lesson. If you are ages 2 to 10, you'll go back to Miss Becca by the door, and she'll take you to your class, okay? Thank you for coming today.
Did you used to be a lurker? We want to get to know you. It's time for a deeper look. Oh, thank you.
I love how you thoughtfully change the first couple of words each time, depending on the
Yes,
person.
I'm.
Because
You
you're
know
like,
what?
you might
Thank
have
you
not
so
been
much.
looking.
Thank you so much for noticing. Thank you.
Okay, so it's time for a deeper look. We have with us today Dr. David Holly. Can you introduce yourself to us? Tell us a little bit about you.
I grew up in Texas and California. My family moved from one place to another. I remember lots of trips between the two to visit relatives. I think it was about 1,500 miles. And there's one trip where I can hardly believe this myself, but this is the days before bucket seats, where you just had a single seat across the front. And my parents were on some desolate Arizona road where there were no other cars. And they decided that they wanted to switch drivers, but they didn't want to stop. And so I remember looking at the speedometer from the back seat. And it was about 80 miles an hour. These were the days when speed limits were, 60, 65 or something like that. And I actually saw them switch seats and maintain their speed. They were young and foolish during this time. My father was an electronic engineer, and so part of our time in California was to take jobs in the electronics industry. And we lived in Southern California. Our town was Fullerton, but really, if you're at all familiar with Southern California, it's like they're wall-to-wall cities where you don't know when you're going from one to the other. And Fullerton is right next to Anaheim. Anaheim is the location of Disneyland. So one of the things I remember as a child is looking, it's like almost every evening, they had fireworks at Disneyland about 9 o'clock. And we could just walk out on our sidewalk and see the fireworks at Disneyland. It's probably a mile away. When I went away to college, my father had moved, our family moved to Houston, and Dad was working at NASA. He was one of those people that you see like in the control room sometimes, doing that sort of thing. And I did I guess it was about my junior year in high school when we moved there. And then I went away to college as an undergraduate at Baylor. I was a math major when I started. Am I going too long? Okay. I was a math major when I started, and the reason I majored in math is I was good at it, and it was easy enough to just continue doing something that I was good at. About my sophomore year, I don't know, it just struck me that I didn't want to do math anymore. So I decided I was going to do stuff that I was interested in. And I was interested in religion and philosophy, and so I started taking a lot of courses in religion and philosophy. These were the days when a major didn't take up all of your college work. There were really electives that you could take, and you could try other things. And so I ended up majoring in religion, but I took a lot of philosophy. I should tell you by way of background. My father thought that if you were going to school, there was only really one reason for it, and it was to study math and science. And so if you weren't studying math and science, you were just wasting your time. And eventually I got my doctorate in philosophy, and so that meant some conversations with my father about wasting time. At any rate, after being an undergraduate at Baylor, I went to theological seminary. I was interested in studying theology. I didn't know whether I wanted to be a minister, but I wanted to study theology, so I did that. And then I later went and did graduate study at the University of Texas and finished my PhD in philosophy there. I should tell you my dad's attitude about studying different things. You remember there was an incident many years ago when somebody got up on the tower in Texas and shot a bunch of people?
Yes.
I wasn't there then, but it was started before my time. But no, Sharon said it wasn't me. My dad's remark, I remember from when that happened, was it must have been a psychology major.
Oh,
So
wow.
that shows you something about his attitude sort of thing. So at any rate, got my doctorate in philosophy, got a job at a small private school in Kansas, a Quaker school. When I say small, I mean like, yeah, for instance, it was like, at the time there were like 1,000 students. So very, very small school. And when you teach at a small school and you're in a particular field, you teach everything in that field. And so when I got out of graduate school, I was teaching all the philosophy that there ever was for everybody. And eventually I moved on from there to another private school in Arizona that was a little bit bigger. And again, I think, the only philosopher, so I was teaching all the philosophy. And then eventually later in my career, I got a job at a state school, and it was a mid-sized state school in southern Mississippi. So I spent the last 25 years at the University of Southern Mississippi. When you're teaching at a state school, you've heard the phrase publish or perish. I mean, there really is the expectation that if you don't publish, then basically you're out. So I published quite a bit. And I started publishing even when I was in a small private school, but that's probably how I got the job. But my main fields of study were philosophy of religion and ethics. And the kind of publications that are mostly respected in my field are publications where you write to other philosophers. So most of them are like things in philosophical journals that would be read only by people in philosophy, right? But eventually I started writing some books, and my first book was on the topic of self-interest. It has, I decided when I started writing books that I wanted to write not just for other philosophers, but I wanted to write for kind of intelligent people who could read. And so the topic of self-interest I thought was something that would be interesting to people. And my thesis was something like, you can't really think intelligently about what's in your self-interest until you've decided what kind of person you want to be. Some things that you might think of as good for you might lead you to live the kind of life that turns out to create the kind of person that you wouldn't even respect, might even despise. And so intelligent thinking about self-interest involves thinking about, who do I really want to be? And then once you've got some conception of that, you can think about what's good for me. Okay. Seems like a simple thesis, but most people, when they think about self-interest, are not thinking in that way. A kind of aside, I know I'm going too long. Kind of aside. Well, we don't have a lot of people here. I sometimes joke that I made Joyce read my book on self-interest before I would agree to marry her. That wasn't exactly true, but there was a strong incentive. She tells me that she took notes on the book.
It wasn't a test.
Another book that I wrote while I was teaching was a book about belief in God. And just the short thing about this, the thesis was that most people think about whether to believe in God in the wrong way. They treat it as a kind of theoretical question. And I argue in the book that it's really a practical question. There's the question of how am I going to live? And in order to live, we all need something like what I call a life-orienting story. And God is a part of some life-orienting stories. So if you're thinking about whether you believe in God, you're mostly thinking about how am I going to live? Okay. So no more of the books that I was writing during that time. I want to switch to my personal life. Probably the most traumatic thing that ever happened to me was the first year that I moved to Mississippi, and my wife, who moved with me, got involved with another man. And it was the most devastating thing that I could imagine. And it really took me years before I felt normal again, before I felt like I could do ordinary things. I could do some things. I could go to class, but I couldn't write for a long time. And it was really years before I even felt willing to consider a relationship with somebody else after that. So fast forward a little bit, 7 years later, I was at a seminar in Michigan doing a study with another philosopher. And during that time, a colleague from the English department at my university called me and said, I have somebody that I think you should meet. And I was a little leery about that, but here's how it went down finally. Joyce and I met at a coffee shop for just a short time and checked each other out essentially. And the idea was later they would ask, do you want him to call you? And do you want to call her? This is really like junior high. So I did. And about a year later, we were married. After she read the book. I should also tell you that the dedication to my second book is to Joyce.
Aww.
And it says, I just want to show you how romantic a guy I am. It says, to Joyce, who awakened my heart. I retired in 2018. In addition to teaching philosophy and doing lots of writing, I'd also been department chair. I took it for what I thought was a short term, and it turned out to be like 17 years. I was department chair. But anyway, I retired in 2018, sort of glad to get away from a lot of stuff about academia. But even after I retired, I couldn't shake the habit of reading and writing and doing stuff like I'd done when I was still a professor. And so I've actually written 2 books since I moved here. And some of you read the first one. The first one is in some ways, it's, can you still be a Christian if you're not a fundamentalist? You know, and how do you do that? So that's not the title, but that's the way the book goes. And then the second book hasn't come out yet, but I finished it and submitted it at the end of last year. And it's about weird stuff. That's all I can say at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, there's 2 more questions.
Mark, okay.
But just like, you know,
Oh, short answer.
yeah. Okay, so we need to know something about you that's quirky, that no one would know unless you told them.
Probably just told them so.
Well, yeah.
So I think this is pretty quirky. One time I broke my neighbor's ribs. So after we moved from California to Texas, I was like a 16-year-old kid. And my neighbor from across the street, who I think was my parents' age, I'm not really sure, but he had been a wrestler at the University of Oklahoma. And for some reason, it came up, I don't think I told him, I think my parents may have said something about that I had wrestled when we lived in California. And so he said, okay, I want to wrestle him. And so they cleared out the living room. I mean, literally, pushed everything back. I think we must have had carpet because you usually wrestle on little mats and things for comfort. So we cleared it out, and then we just kind of went after each other for a while. And then I didn't hear about this until the next day, but I heard secondhand I'd broken his ribs.
Okay, well, last
You wouldn't have
question.
known that.
I love that. That goes up in there with the randomness of the one person who used to eat matches. But anyways, I'll say, but he said it, he shared it, it's in public. Anyways, that's up there. Okay, last question. What is giving you life right now?
So I mentioned I'd just written this book, and let me say just a little bit about the book, because I'm still thinking about that, even though I've finished it and haven't got all the publishing things done. I've asked several people in conversations, have you ever had anything really strange happen to you? And sometimes people just look at you funny, but some other people will share with me an experience of something that seems really strange to them. And so the book is about phenomena that are, I'm going to call them anomalous. It's like they don't fit with our usual ways of thinking about how the world works. And I'm not mostly thinking about miracles, but I am thinking about things that happen and you think, there's no way that could happen. It's like it just doesn't make sense. It's mysterious. So the title of the book is Making Room for Mystery. And the focus of the book is the question, if you believe that the world contains some mysterious things that can happen, some weird things, things that don't fit with our usual views of reality, then how does that fit with Christian faith? In particular, how does it fit with the idea of God doing anything in the world? Or how does it fit with the idea of something miraculous? And in general, what I'm claiming in this book is when you think about some anomalous phenomena, I think we have to think that physical reality is not the ultimate stuff, but there's something mental that has powers beyond what we usually think of it as having, that the mind is not just a byproduct of some physical structure. That's just philosophical.
Thank you.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How y'all doing? All right. Can't tell, I brought my sound bowl with me this morning. Ooh, I love it. Fun. Okay. So as we are in this Lenten Alms, Love in Motion series, I figured I'd bring my heart chakra bowl. So this is just meant to help us tap into our heart space, find greater compassion for ourselves and the community that we are in, and hopefully the world around us as well. So I just want to give us space to drop in and kind of do a short meditation as I read a poem / prayer for us today. So feel free to get grounded where you sit, whether that's putting your feet on the ground. I love that some of you have already begun to close your eyes. If you feel comfortable, feel free to lower your gaze or keep your eyes open if you like. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Again, in through your nose and out through your mouth. Spirit of God, when paths of transformation lead me into times of wilderness, periods of learning and unlearning, realities winding and unruly, may your presence be my steady companion. If I feel afraid of the unfamiliar or unknown, a stranger to where you are leading, remind me, I do not go alone. All who seek your wisdom are wandering. When I forget, remind me this is part of love's work. Help me to be patient with my journey, letting love set the pace. If I feel ashamed, confronted by regrets, embarrassed by ignorance, or trapped by snares of guilt, may your grace be near, and let courage steady my way. To you I will turn for nourishment along the way, remembering the simple pleasures of being alive, of being together, of being among the creations of your hand. There is no stretch of the earth where delight cannot be found. All with the desires to further the common good, lead me more deeply into the heart of love. In the company of your promises, faith shall be my God. Feel free to slowly come back into the space. Give the body a good shake. Yeah. And we'll continue.
Good morning. See, Tuesdays.
gonna do the reading on the temptation, what's some Bibles put down the temptation of Christ. You know, be my guess on that. And from the Gospel of Luke, verses 1 through 13. And I'm gonna ask Aurelia if I just would take a moment to share a muse that I had. Really, I should be able to say, you know, when you look into muse, there were actually 9 muses, right? The daughters of Zeus. And thank you. No. Anyway, they were the goddesses or muses of science, literature, and art. And I think we'll probably all have muses in our life. You may live with one or 2 or 3, you know. And I have a personal muse that I've known throughout the years, not personally, but I feel like I've had a good relationship in her novels, her literature, her writings, and that would be Barbara Kingsolver. And so before I do this reading of this literal interpretation of Gospel of Luke and this experience that Jesus had, you know, in a way, Jesus can be our poison, or Jesus can be our blessing. And if you've read the novel A Poisonwood Bible, you probably know where I'm going at and what I'm referring to. And you know, the one of the premises or thesis that she had in that novel, and she's a fantastic novelist and writer, I highly recommend her, is that it only takes like miscommunication or mispronunciation or misunderstanding, even in a sincere way, to just kind of turn things over. And even though we live in this place of this country, this society of communication, aren't we often living in a country of miscommunication or misunderstanding? So even when it comes to the scripture and these verses, it's keep that in mind as we, you know, reflect on these words of Luke. Chapter 4, verses 1 through 13 from Luke. Jesus, full of the Holy Spirit, returned from the Jordan and was led by the Spirit in the wilderness, where for 40 days he was tempted by the devil. He ate nothing at all during those days, and when they were over, he was famished. The devil said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command this stone to become a loaf of bread." And Jesus answered him, "It is written, one does not live by bread alone." Then the devil led him up, showed him in an instant all the kingdoms of the world. And the devil said to him, "To you I will give their glory and all this authority, for it's been given over to me, and I give it to anyone I please. If you then will worship me, it will all be yours." And Jesus answered him, "It is written, worship the Lord your God and serve only him." Then the devil took him up to Jerusalem, placed him on the pinnacle of the temple, saying to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down from here. For it is written, he will command his angels concerning you to protect you. And on their hands they will bear you up, so that you will not dash your foot against a stone." And then Jesus answered him and said, "It is said, do not put your Lord, your God, to the test." And so when the devil had finished every test, he departed from him until an opportune time. So Lord, have mercy on us and help us to hear this word of God.
Thanks be to God.
Good morning. Thank you for choosing to get up an hour early, mostly volunteers who forgot what they were signing up for on this Sunday. But happy daylight savings. Happy March, happy almost spring. I'm very excited for it to be lighter this evening. I will take that loss of sleep for that moment. It's really hard to believe that we're already at this point of the year. I mean, I feel like January went by really slow, but then now suddenly it's March, and I feel like, where did the time go? I think about the crazy start of the year, so often fueled by holiday busyness and exhaustion, or maybe if you're lucky, holiday rest. In our family, I have a Christmas birthday, December 21st, write that down. Cosette's birthday is on New Year's Day. And then in between, we are pretty much always hosting the family dinners for Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving before that. So I just don't always have time to process at this point. And I really like to process the last year as I go into the new year. And that's what New Year's is for, right? We reflect, we pause, and we think about how we might step into a new year differently, or at the very least, just kind of reset our current rhythms. So I say all that to say, if you were like me and you do not feel you had ample opportunity to reflect, if you feel like you lacked the spaciousness to ponder during that time, today, my friends, I'm here to tell you, you are in luck. Lent is a bonus round for this kind of thing. It's a collective opportunity to pause, slow down, reevaluate rhythms, and deeply reflect. It's a season of remembering. We remember ourselves, our stories, and our shared story as a people of faith, and of course, the story of Christ, his journey, and our journey to resurrection. So we begin this first Sunday of Lent with 2 lectionary readings, both which call us to the Lenten practice of remembering. Remembering can be a powerful tool, I'm sure you know, whether it's remembering the experiences that have shaped us, seeking to remember for the purpose of ancestral or relational connection, or simply remembering to be fully present in the present moment. Remembering will bring us back to the fullness of ourselves, our gratitude, our purpose, our authenticity, and divine encounter is here. And with divine encounter comes divine resources in abundance. So remembering is very powerful. So we actually have another lectionary reading from Deuteronomy, chapter 26. It offers a glimpse into a ritual of remembrance. You can check it out in the Revised Common Lectionary. The people, having finally arrived in the land they've been promised, are being instructed on how to bring their first fruit offerings. It's not the most riveting read. In fact, I asked someone to read it because I was like, we need a really lively reader. And then I ended up just not even including it because it's one of those readings that will just make your eyes glaze over, or it will trigger a part of you that's done with pointless piety. Either way, you space out. And I just felt like, you know what, the overachievers can read this after the service if they would like. That said, I did read it for myself several times. And what I found was that if you really pause, put yourself in the context, and then take in what's actually taking place, the appreciation will deepen. In fact, the ritual moment that's being described is quite beautiful because the act of giving in this text isn't about mere obligation. Rather, it's an act of storytelling. The people are being asked to consider their past, their ancestors, and their collective capital S story. The ritual they're asked to participate in is that of remembering. They must remember where they came from. They must name their history, the hardship and the deliverance, the ancestral and divine connection. And the offering required and central to the storytelling via the act of remembering reminds us just how much remembering matters. It's powerful because it fuels us, it motivates us, it compels us to action. Looking back changes us by ushering us forward. So in the text, remembering was both sacred and central to the embodiment of the people, the living out of their identity as individuals and as a collective. And the same is true for us today. Otherwise, why even talk about it? Think about it. When we remember our vulnerable moments, we cultivate compassion toward the vulnerable around us. When we consider the times we have been in need, we become more generous to those in need all around us in all sorts of ways. Remembering influences our postures and our movements in this world, and it sets our most powerful divine resource in motion, which is love. And when love remembers, it can't help but become embodied. It can't help but grow wings and take flight. That's just how love works. And so remembering is really important. And Jesus knew this too. So the old Christmas hymn, O Holy Night, I love this lyric in one of my favorite lines. His law is love and his gospel is peace. But Jesus also knew and valued the actual law, his traditions, scriptures, and he was often recalling them and sharing them like we see in today's gospel reading. In this text, Jesus is fresh off his baptism when he enters the wilderness where he will be alone, hungry, and exhausted. And yet, paradoxically, the text describes him as full. Jesus, full of the Spirit, returned from the Jordan and was led by the Spirit in the wilderness, where for 40 days he was tested. Notice the tests did not come once Jesus was a seasoned professional, prepared and equipped, but rather immediately following his baptism. The intense temptations did not come when he was feasting with his family, doubling that up on that wine, or traveling with friends and whipping up miracles. The trials didn't come in safety and security in good or steady times. No, the wilderness met Jesus when he was at his most vulnerable. And Jesus met the wilderness full of both spirit and memory. At every test, he responded by remembering the words of his faith. He resisted scarcity-informed lies, resisted power-filled temptations and promises, and resisted departing from his God-given integrity. The act of remembering shaped his every response and every test-filled moment. It was the muscle memory of a faith that lived in his body, no matter the circumstances. May it be the same for us in these times. May the muscle memory we have been developing show up for us now when we have need of it most. After all, we have not been doing this faith work together and on our own, this spirit work, this healing inner work for nothing. We have been doing it precisely for moments like these, wilderness times. So I'm seeing a lot of people discouraged lately. A lot is happening. I get it. I feel it. Our sources for news and communication are more chaotic than ever. Miscommunication, misunderstanding is all around. And it's really hard to figure out what the right boundaries are for staying informed. And on top of that, the adulting is adulting. Like, I know so many in this community who are going through some really hard times at any given point. There's a lot of stress and struggle and anxiety and exhaustion. And I'm saying now is not the time to cave to hopelessness. Now is not the time to abandon the memory of our faith's core belief that while the things of death are inevitable, so is the stuff of resurrection. Now's not the time to lose sight of that. Now's not the time to lose sight of the divine presence and the divine resources that can set our love in motion. Now is the time to remember, because when love remembers, we will be moved to action. And that action is our hope. It is resurrection embodied. We are the hands and feet of Christ. We are the body, even or perhaps especially in wilderness times. According to today's text, the wilderness moment is the very opportunity to recall the depths of our faith, not just as something we believe in or hold, but as something we do. And my friends, this is what Lent is about. Lent, at its core, is a season of remembering and reflecting, but there's always purpose to it. And the purpose doesn't just show up in 40 days plus 6 Sundays later at Easter. So often Lent is conflated with fasting. That's all I see. I mean, I grew up Catholic, and so there's these roots that kind of go deeper from that experience, but I see a lot of just Lent equals giving up something. And fasting is only one tenet of this tradition. Historically, Lent has 3 primary spiritual practices. So there's prayer. We see this emphasized with kind of like the personal element of reflecting and making inner shifts. There's the fasting, which I think we know about because people talk about that. But the third tenet seems to be lesser known, or at least lesser discussed, unless you grew up with that education and understanding. The third tenet of Lent is almsgiving. Prayer draws us inward toward reflection and connection with God. Fasting draws us into awareness, reminding us of our dependence, interrupting our normal habits. And almsgiving is outward, our love in action, generosity, tangible acts of care for others. So we named our preaching series this year Lenten Alms to highlight this third lesser discussed tenet. But we also wanted to emphasize almsgiving because it's easy to be or become overwhelmed to the point of inaction right now. And yet the best thing we could do is ask ourselves, what can I do? Even if it's so tiny and small, it's not small at all if you are asking based on your own circumstances, your own context, your own passions, and your own realistic abilities. Can you imagine if we all asked ourselves this question regularly with those things in mind during the Lenten season? How powerful this could be. This is what Lent was made for. This season was created to prepare us to receive the beauty of Easter. It was created to make room in our lives for fuller faith, and it was created for collective benefit, that needs would be met in deeper ways in our communities and in the world. And here's what's beautiful. All 3 of those tenets, those practices, are rooted in remembering. We pray to remember our connection to the divine. We fast to remember what truly sustains us. We give to remember that love is not just an idea, it's an action. When love remembers, we know healing and hope, both of which breathe life into our bodies and souls, and everyone in proximity to us benefits from this. That's why Deuteronomy links memory and generosity. That's why Jesus in the wilderness leaned on his tradition, because when we remember where we've been, when we remember who we are, we move differently in this world. So this Lent, as we reflect on what it means to embody love, we are invited not just to recall the past, but to let that remembering shape our present. We're invited to put our faith in motion through the acts of tangible love that have always shaped this season. It doesn't have to be elaborate or complicated. It simply means giving in a way that helps those in need around you. Mr. Rogers said, your neighbor is anyone who you're with at any given point. Helping those in need, whether that means through our resources, our time, or other creative ways like cooking a meal for someone, writing letters, being generous with forgiveness, patience, or advocacy. Again, when love remembers, it can't help but become embodied. It can't help but grow wings and take flight. That's just how love works. May it be so. May our remembering move us toward a wild and holy love in motion. Amen.
Aurelia asked us to do this song for this specific Sunday. And I love it because it is an exercise in compassion for ourselves and for our neighbors. So would you listen? And would you be strengthened knowing that you are loved wherever you find yourself in these lyrics today? Dear blessed Creator, dear Mother, dear Savior, dear Father, dear Brother, dear Holy Other, dear sibling, dear baby, dear patiently waiting, dear sad and confused, dear stuck and abused, dear in a few road, dear running from home, dear going alone, dear worn out and broke, dear righteously angry, forsaken by family, dear jaded and quiet, dear stuck and defiant, I pray that I'm heard, and I pray that this works. I pray if a prayer has been used as a sword against you and your heart, against you and your word, I pray that this prayer is a plowshare of swords, that it might break you open, it might help you grow. I pray that your body gets all that it needs, and if you don't want healing, I just pray for peace. I pray that your burden gets lighter each day. I pray the mean voice in your head goes away. I pray that you honor the grief as it comes, and I pray you can feel all the life in your lungs. I pray that if you go all day being brave, that you can go home, go to bed, feeling safe. I pray you're forgiven. I pray you forgive. I pray you set boundaries and openly live. I pray that you feel you are worth never leaving. I pray that you know I will always believe you. I pray that you're hurt, and I pray that this works. Amen. On behalf of the last and the least, on behalf of the anxious, depressed and unseen. Amen. For the workers, the hungry, the houseless. Amen. For the lonely and recently spouseless. Amen. For the queers and their closeted peers. Amen. For the bullied and holding their tears. Amen. For the mothers of little black sons. Amen. For the kids who grow up scared of guns. And amen. For the eyes the shame and hung over. Amen. For the past rising the sober. Amen. For the ones who want us to be over. Amen. For the leaders who lose their composure. Amen. For the parents of sweet.
Such a beautiful song. I have announcements, and there's a little clipboard going around because everyone really filled it in for the last couple weeks, and we have a couple of more weeks in March and April before Easter that we need help with. I actually don't know what does it go to on that? It's sometime.
End of May.
Oh, yeah, can we just, if you can, fill that out if you can help. Thank you to all our volunteers, especially today, whenever a pastor's out, we always fill it. So thank you so much for helping. Sweaters, if you ordered a sweater and you haven't gotten it, we have them, but we don't have any knowledge of what you got. So you have to know what you got if you want it come to me. Okay. Writing group is this Wednesday, so I hope to see a lot of you there. Yay. Lark and Owl noon.
Sorry, I don't see that one.
Okay.
I'll
It
get
doesn't
out and
matter.
go to pre-post.
You guys. So I just want y'all to know that we
Go
are, okay. There you go. Second Wednesday is 12 to 1, Lark and Owl, Georgetown. This Wednesday is the second Wednesday, so come join us. Everyone's invited if you have any interest in creativity and writing whatsoever. We do have a fifth Sunday service. These come quarterly, so they sneak up on us. And I just want you to mark your calendar if you're interested in joining us at Community First Village, because we finally figured out what works well for our group there, and I'm super excited. Basically, we're going to host a game hour for the neighbors/residents of Community First Village in Austin in their living room space, and there is a sign up out, but just FYI, it's the fifth Sunday. Mark your calendar and check your emails because the sign up will be coming out on Monday. Watch parties are next week, so sign up for those. Our next time we'll be in this space is March 23rd. And please continue giving and supporting because we're totally community funded and we love you and you do. Cosette, thank you so much for taking Eleanor's place today and reading the benediction. Eleanor and the Gephardt family have some sickness, so prayers up for them. And here we go. Do you want to come to the smaller table?
So we have the set, and I'm reading the benediction, the liturgy. I'm gonna read the regular, and you guys can read the bold. Lord, you are sending a God. You sent your word to create. You sent your Christ to reveal. You sent your spirit to empower. You sent your church to fulfill.
Send us, O God, to renew the earth. Lead us by your Spirit and your word. As your people we now go, by our peace we'll make you known.
People of God, you are sent. Go to peace for peace. Amen.
Let's sing this last verse of Amazing Grace, rewritten for our benediction. Oh, send us to renew the earth with spirit and with word. Now join us one in grace we go. Our peace will make you known. Now join